Hey guys, Kyle here. Recently, I spoke to over 500 Lutherans at the Issues Etc. Making the Case conference at Concordia University, Chicago. I had a great experience. You wouldn't think that an entire room full of Lutherans would be any fun, but trust me, they were a hoot. We had a blast talking about everything from serious theological topics to lighter issues, like jokes and what God has done for us by giving us humor, all kinds of fun stuff that we got to do, and they were just an absolute blast. Well, Issues Etc. is a podcast and syndicated radio talk show, and it covers all kinds of topics from culture and worldview to theology, apologetics, ethics, philosophy, law, and culture. Issues Etc. has been educating, equipping, and edifying Christians for almost 30 years, and they have my highest recommendation. Listen at issuesetc.org or at your favorite podcast provider. That's issuesetc.org to start listening today. Go Lutherans!
The Babylon Bee Podcast.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Babylon Bee Occasional. I'm Kyle Mann, the editor-in-chief. I'm hanging out here with Adam Yenser and Travis Woodside. I feel like I never say your last name on this show.
I don't think anyone does.
Now people can dox you.
Now they can dox you. That's great.
Or can you? It's a fake name.
It is fake.
That looked like a challenge.
No, don't. No, it's not a challenge. Please do not dox me.
We're going to break this out for social
I
media.
want to
Can
live.
You dox the
That's
Babylon
our-
Bee writer.
Yeah.
We always do subscriber challenges
This
now,
is-
or dares.
Yeah.
We're going to dare them now. Who can dox Travis?
Please
We
don't
want a
dox
SWAT team at Travis's house. But
Dan's coming in here to yell at us. Wait, what is he doing? Oh, he's fixing a camera.
me. Yeah, he's like, oh, Travis doesn't look beautiful enough. I have to focus in on those pores.
There's a button for that.
There's a pore button? Yeah. Oh, cool.
you have to hit the Travis balance.
Travis balance. Crank that baby up.
Thank you, Dan.
You didn't say you're welcome.
No, he didn't. He just
just
he
like-
gave me a knowing look.
Oh, did he not?
Pause for editing.
I never know if Dan's in a good mood or not. You know, I just
You're right. I would never, in all the time I've known him, be able to tell whether he was in a good
very
mood or a
stoic.
bad mood.
Oh, I've just started asking him, are you okay?
Is he usually
He's usually okay.
usually good? Cool.
okay.
But the problem is that he goes, yeah, I'm good. And then I go, I don't know what to think about that.
Huh.
He's been playing that video game about the Roman soldiers.
Oh, Rome Total War.
Oh, yeah. You can like send your
You
battalions.
can
in the battle.
move battalions, and then you can send war elephants.
Oh, that sounds like a Dan game.
Oh wow.
It is a major Dan game. When I played it years ago, before I knew Dan, I went, this is such a Dan game.
Somewhere out there, there's a guy.
He's gonna love
This
this.
is perfect for.
I think the air just kicked in. I don't know if that's
yeah.
supposed to or not, but maybe it doesn't matter anyway.
Let's talk more about the air.
Let's talk more.
How do
Now,
you feel
now
about
that the
air
podcast is only every now and then,
Yeah, that's
it
true.
has air conditioning since.
Yeah. Not a daily devotional, just an occasional devotional,
And it's off.
which is what most daily devotionals become.
Are you guys good at daily devotionals?
You mean like actually having one of those from a bookstore and following the daily
Either
devotional?
that or sitting down
Or
like
actually-
or like a dedicated, this is my 15 minutes in the morning where I read something out of the Bible and
I
pray.
I go in streaks.
Yeah,
where I'm like,
I'm very streaky as well.
I'm doing it, and then I feel like
fall off for
that
a
turns
while.
into pride, and God's like, nope.
I don't want to be too proud, so I'm not going to read the Bible.
I've fallen out of
That's
that.
exactly
I'm very
what
good
I
at
think.
praying daily, but reading the Bible, for years, I was on a streak where I'd read a chapter every night for multiple years in a row. But then over the last 2 years, I would say it's much less consistent.
Yeah. Well, let's all read the Bible right now.
There we
Yeah.
go.
Let's turn that frown upside down.
Well, today we're going to talk with ADF lawyer Jeremy Tedesco about how ADF is combating, is that how you say that word? Combating the corporate ESG score system with their very own viewpoint diversity score. That sounds interesting. We're going to do that. We're going to also talk about some cool stuff. So here we go.
What's in the news this week?
So Mitch McConnell,
He's an old man.
Speaking of cool stuff, Mitch McConnell keeps freezing up.
you stepped on my joke. Mitch McConnell.
How old is he?
No,
I don't know what
he's
you're
just-
talking
he's,
about.
he's trying to
I'm
freeze up.
trying
like
to
Mitch
freeze up
McConnell.
like Mitch
Oh.
McConnell. Maybe I needed to set
Doing
it.
the long pause.
Mitch McConnell continues to...
Sir? Sir?
Senator, did you hear the question?
Freeze up. Wait, I've never actually watched any of this footage. Does he freeze and then kick right back in, or does he look confused?
He has the 1,000-mile stare for
I've
like
seen
several seconds, and
like
then
30
an aide
seconds.
comes in. Somebody asks him, "What are your plans for re-election? Like, are you going to run again?" And he just gives the blank stare, but he's still standing there at the podium. And then an aide comes in and goes, "Sir, did you hear the question?" He just keeps staring, and then she goes, "We're going to need a minute." And then another aide comes in, and they talk to him a little, and then he kind of comes back to and briefly says something, and then they kind of take him away.
Yeah, he's just like, I'm fine.
Okay.
I think it's what he says.
Yeah, and then
they
the
just
aide
usher him
tries to
off.
go. She says, after that weird incident, she goes, "Are there any other questions? And you need to speak up."
Yeah, it's like she's
that
trying to
was the
make it like,
problem.
Oh man.
because I know that when I don't hear anything, I just stare at people.
Yeah.
Oh, they say the person asking the question needs to speak.
Yeah,
up?
yeah.
Oh, you should have.
Yeah, if you spoke louder, he wouldn't freeze.
Yeah.
But then they said the physician checked him out, and it wasn't a stroke or a seizure.
They said he had a concussion,
Oh, that's right. He fell a few months
Yeah.
ago or
Ooh,
something.
ouch.
Yeah.
but I don't think that's typical of a concussion. Is that typical of a concussion, Travis?
Sir?
You need to speak
Travis,
louder.
did you hear the question?
It's typical to like have problems like searching for words or finding your words, and so it can seem like you're freezing up, but like a normal person, I think I'll freeze up because I can't think of a word, and then I'll just go, well, I'll just say something else. Then I will abandon that line of thought.
Whereas Mitch
Maybe
McConnell abandons all lines of thought.
Yeah, right. So I don't know.
And this is at least the second time that's happened very publicly. Yeah.
The first time it seemed like a more abrupt thing because the aides didn't come up right away. They were just like,
Well, now they
maybe he's
know.
thinking,
We gotta go.
yeah,
reset
now
him.
they're just like, we need a minute.
He's on
you
the
know.
fritz again.
Yeah, they start hitting him.
Smack him a couple times. Well, that's sad.
It is
Even
sad.
though we're laughing
He's
about
81. We have lots of
81.
lots
It's
of
just-
old politicians.
It's partially nervous laughter because I feel bad for him, but also it's like, man, I would hate to be so obsessed with work like that I just will not retire.
With all of these people, it's not that you lack compassion for the fact that they're going through these health issues. Same with like John Fetterman. He's a Democrat. Like I don't agree with him. On one hand, it feels bad to make fun of these disabilities, but with all these politicians, each side wants their votes so badly. They'll just wheel these people out there that are like stiff as a board and just, hey, it's still somebody on our side there.
Just everyone's playing the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Game of Thrones.
Dun, 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 dun.
Hey, did you hear about this Delta flight from Atlanta to Spain?
I did.
Tell us.
Well, basically, a guy had a bathroom problem. And instead of going to the bathroom,
You
he
mean
just...
like peeing?
No, like diarrhea.
Oh, okay.
Like
Cha, cha,
peeing.
cha.
Yeah, never mind. Okay, go.
And he just... I guess what they said was they had to turn around because he started going the halls, like the aisles, for some reason. And I quote, he said, all the way through the airplane.
He diarrheaed all the way through the
Who's
airplane.
that quote from? Is that from him or is that from...
I think it's from like the pilot talking about how they needed to turn around. The news article was very much like, he had a serious health condition. It was called diarrhea all the way through the plane. Obvious biohazard situation. I get that.
They should have next to the seatbelt and the cigarette a little poop emoji like that. Bing. Everyone take their seats. There's diarrhea all over the plane.
Oh, yeah.
So did this turn around like before they got out of the U.S.?
I don't know how far
I
that
don't know
got.
how far.
Okay.
They
I
were
would-
almost to Spain.
Turn around.
Spain won't let us land.
They were coming in for a landing, and the man had diarrhea. They said, "Oh, back to Atlanta."
Oh man.
I think it was probably an issue due to the Bermuda Triangle,
Oh, okay.
which, as you know, causes your compasses to go wild and you to have uncontrollable diarrhea.
I don't think that flight would go through the Bermuda Triangle though.
It would if it goes
Man, that
down.
sounds
and
awful.
It would if they went the wrong way.
Yeah.
my child's really fascinated with the Bermuda
It
Triangle
is.
right
That was
now.
one of those things I would get books on, like check them out from
Oh
the
yeah.
library.
As a little kid,
fascinating.
it's so interesting.
I like Titanic. I liked Bermuda Triangle.
It's one of those things like quicksand. Like as a kid,
Quicksand,
you
yeah.
thought it was a much bigger issue than it really is as an
Yes,
adult. You thought it was
yes.
something that
Quicksand is
I
just-
always have to avoid the Bermuda Triangle. And now I think I've been on like a flight. I've been on flights and cruises that have gone through there, and it's like, oh, that was the Bermuda Triangle. Like, oh, that was,
It's like
Nothing
that was
happened.
no big deal at all.
I didn't disappear or anything.
Lame.
Well, Fauci is concerned. We haven't heard about this guy in a while. He's concerned that
Glad to see him back in the news.
It's always good to see him back. He said he's concerned that people won't mask up again as COVID cases, hospitalizations, and deaths continue to rise in the U.S. all the way through the airplane.
I wanted to kind of get your guys' opinion on that because I'm hearing this like at least from the right. Oh, they're bringing back masks again. They're doing all this, and I haven't really heard of that happening.
I haven't seen it
other than
personally.
Lionsgate.
So yeah, Lionsgate is the one I know of in Hollywood that reinstated the mandate, and then I've heard
For productions and stuff?
at their studio.
at the
In order to go to Lionsgate Studio now, you have to wear a
okay.
mask there. And then I've heard of individual schools reinstating
like-
at various places, but I personally have not encountered anywhere where they're trying to make me mask up again.
Yeah.
I don't think they're gonna really push it. I think you'll see this seasonally from now on. Like you'll just see when it hits winter, there's gonna be some places that are gonna start enforcing masks, and that'll just go on forever probably.
And I have heard of friends getting it again the last couple of weeks. I know
COVID.
Getting masks again.
They've come down with masks.
Sad.
One of the variants.
I don't have any friends, but Emma did get it.
A mask or COVID?
COVID.
Oh, okay. I have a friend who gets
She's
all
not a
of them.
friend,
He gets
but-
all the new COVIDs every time they come out.
He collects them all.
Yeah,
Gotta catch them all.
exactly. How long do you think we'll ever get to the point where CNN will put back on the old death
counter,
tracker,
man.
you know?
Will they continue from where it left
Oh,
off?
does
or
it
do you
start over, or-
Start over.
I think you.
They may
have-
not because they don't like that there was more COVID deaths under Biden than Trump. So they don't want to
That's
draw.
true.
They still want to draw attention to the masking and the social distancing and stuff.
So
if
it'll
they
be-
need it, but they don't want to draw attention.
Yeah,
to that
it'll
more
be a
people
counter,
died.
not so much for people dying. It'll be a counter for how many people are wearing masks.
Yeah.
So 10 people wearing masks right now.
And hey, you hear this story? Liberty Safe, America's top gun safe manufacturer, tells customers they provided FBI the access code for January 6ers gun safe. Also, Proud Boys members are being sentenced to multi-decade prison stints. I saw the leader, what's his name? Barrio or something?
His name is Mr. Proud Boy.
Mr. Proud Boy?
Yeah.
Proud J boys.
Proud J Boy. The J stands for justice.
Yes, exactly.
That was one of my favorite Simpsons jokes where his middle initial was
This is
Homer
just-
J. Simpson.
yeah.
And then he went on that quest to find his middle name. He's, oh, Homer J. Simpson.
Isn't it like
J-A-Y.
J-A-Y? Yeah. Yeah, the leader got sentenced to 22 years.
And he wasn't even at
He
the
wasn't
January
at the
6th thing.
Capitol. He wasn't there. I get, if he was actually planning something.
I'm
I
all
don't
for
know.
the people getting charged if they actually assaulted cops or broke windows. All those people, but the whole thing where they're going after everybody, especially with these multi-decade sentences.
It seems weird. Even
Yeah, well, and at the same time, if you break a window, and I'm not saying that shouldn't be punished, but it's like
Sounds like
you broke a
Sounds like
window.
you
It's like,
are.
well, I mean, it's vandalism. It's not. I mean, but they're charging them for like high treason, essentially.
yeah.
it's like
for breaking a window.
I don't know.
yeah.
Like absent Trump, let's say it's 2005, and for no reason whatsoever, you go to the Capitol and you're just like,
Yeah,
what do you think you'd get charged with? Like,
I don't know. Fine.
I mean, you get charged with vandalism, right?
Yeah,
The year before, when there was BLM riots in Washington, D.C., for 2 nights, they burned the president's church. They were so rowdy. I mean, Trump denies it, but the reports were that they were so close to breaking into the White House that they took the first family, the secure location.
Yeah.
They defaced the Lincoln Memorial, and there was Secret Service that were injured, and there was cops that were injured. I've never heard of anybody getting
I
multi-decade
think that's the issue. It's
sentences
the
over
double
that.
standard.
Yeah,
It
it's
is,
a double
yeah.
standard.
It's like, why are they going so hard on the January 6th thing when, I mean, other than broken windows, which obviously not great, but people just walked around the place.
Sounds like you're defending the broken windows again.
Travis, are you planning an insurrection?
Please don't dox me. I do not own a Liberty Safe. So that is interesting about Liberty Safe too. I don't know if that's necessarily related to the Proud Boys.
When I started reading this story, I thought it was an ad read at first that I was going into. It's like Liberty
Brought to you
Safe,
by
America's top gun safe manufacturer, tells customers they provided FBI. Oh no, this isn't a commercial.
Yeah. So how do you feel about safe manufacturer being like, oh, here's their code so you can get in?
I don't know what the legality of that is. I guess they can do it if they want to. I don't know.
Well, I mean, the FBI
How
had
do they
a
have your
warrant to
code?
search the safe.
I feel like if it's hard because I would feel like in most situations, if they have a warrant, like if they're
Law
investigating a murder
enforcement, yeah.
suspect and they think the weapon is in that gun safe, I guess I support law enforcement getting that. It's just the whole circus around January 6th that feels overboard and overkill. Especially like he didn't have a gun. Did he have the gun at?
Like, why did they need the gun?
January
Yeah, that's
6th?
not
Yeah.
right.
I have
like-
no idea.
We know they didn't shoot anybody with it
Yeah.
at the Capitol. So I don't get it. This news item has been brought to you by Liberty Safe, America's top gun safe manufacturer.
And proud ally of the FBI.
Lock up your guns today.
Speaking of being locked in the closet, Tucker...
Use promo code insurrection for
Oh man, my beautiful segue was ruined. Tucker talked to a man who has claimed over the years that he did drugs and had sex with Barack Obama in 1999. His name is Larry Sinclair.
Whoa, don't dox Larry Sinclair.
Oh, I'm sorry.
An unnamed
Larry.
man.
Larry, can we just say Larry?
Yeah, just Larry S.
Or you could just watch Tucker's show and
Yeah, I guess you could
his
do
name
that.
would be on there. Yeah, I don't know really what to think of it. It is weird to me, like that we're in all these important national conversations about like, are we losing our nation and blah blah blah. And Tucker's like, hey, here's this guy that said he had sex with Obama in '99.
It's also one of those stories. There have been these rumors for a while.
Yeah, right.
And it is weird that excerpt from Obama's letter where he said he fantasized about, or he
Daily.
had made love to men in his imagination.
Yeah.
So there is all this like weird innuendo, and it would be funny if this was true. But I didn't watch the whole interview, but I saw clips of it. He seems like a questionably credible guy.
Yeah,
he seems a little.
It's one of those things where, like, I certainly support Tucker doing his show on X, the Everything app.
I certainly support him investigating everyone who says they had gay sex with Barack Obama.
Absolutely, we gotta know. But
It's one of my core principles.
it's just I feel like he's going into this is like a tabloid report.
Yeah.
Like, who cares? He's not even president right now. He's not leader of the free world talking about how this virtuous man or
How
whatever.
long is the interview? Is it a regular like hour long one?
Oh, I don't know. Like his Andrew Tate one was
for
very
the next
long.
hour. This man who did coke and had sex with
Describes in
Barack
graphic
Obama.
details. It's like, what else could
I
you
feel
say?
like you need 2 minutes of that, and you got the gist of it.
I wonder what kind of like liability you have to bring someone on. Like, what if that turns out not to be true? Does Obama have any standing to go after Tucker or something?
Well,
You know, I
see,
don't-
would it be against Tucker?
I'm just asking him questions.
Well, yeah, or would it be against Larry S?
Well, he could obviously sue him if it's false. But like for Tucker, bringing someone on like that, does that open you up to any kind of like,
Maybe he has to keep saying allegedly.
yeah, just throughout allegedly? So, that's a thing, I guess.
Cool.
That's cool.
Lots of fun news this week.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun news this week. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Speaking of gay sex, Bethesda put out the new game Starfield, and people are upset about pronouns in the game. So I started playing this game. This is the people who made Fallout and
Morrowind.
Skyrim, and then the good Skyrim, which was called Morrowind.
I heard they're coming out with a woke Fallout called Come Out.
That's it. That's the end of the podcast.
Did we just end?
It's just credits roll. Circle wipe on my face. Da-da-da-da-da-da.
So they put out this game, and there was a lot of people freaking out because they're like, "Oh, they shoved pronouns in this game." And so I started up the game, and I was like, I've been excited for this game. And you get through the character creation screen. I'm like, I thought I missed it because I'm like, they didn't ask me for pronouns. I didn't know
This
what they
isn't
were about.
woke.
Yeah, this isn't woke. This is based. But it does after you fit. Well, first of all, you can't pick male or female in the game. You pick body type 1, which looks suspiciously close to male, and body type 2, which looks suspiciously close to female. And then, based on one of those that you pick, at the very end of character creation, if you picked the male body type, it says, in a little thing in the corner of your character sheet, it says he, him. And then if you picked the female, not female, it says she, her. And then there's a button you can press somewhere like on the bottom of the thing that says change pronouns. So that's where all this is coming from.
Did you change your pronouns?
I did not.
Did you look at the options? Like, can you change it to like?
I didn't even go into
anything?
the screen, but yeah, I assume you can do like they, them, and stuff. But I don't. As far as I know, nobody actually refers to you by your pronouns in the game, so it's just like
It's just virtue
imaginary like. So
It's also one of those things where even when they try to be woke, if it defaults to for the male body type he him and defaults to the female for she her, if they were really woke, it would randomize every time. No
randomize
matter
everything,
which
no matter
body
what you
type you
do.
pick, it could be one or the other.
I guess it could have been, but I just because I clicked on, I made a girl character as I do in RPGs.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's like she her. I'm like, oh, cool, you got it.
Wrong. He, him.
It's like they're looking at your character and they're like, we're gonna guess she her.
It is weird if they never use the pronouns in the
It's
game.
just like
you in your own satisfaction of your own mind. You're like, oh, nobody knows I'm a trans person playing this game.
I mean, the Starfield sounds like it kind of suffers from the same amount of confusion that like Skyrim and Fallout have, where you have so much character customization as if you're going to be in a multiplayer world and interact with others, and then you just don't. So
And I think what
it's like you build so much attention like designing your face in Skyrim. No one sees it, and it's a first person game pretty much. So
yeah, you can go third person. I know people like to like go third person and look at their character and do like the photo gallery.
look at
take
my
pictures.
cool black cat person.
Yeah. I think Cyberpunk was the one that had massive character customization, and you could give your woman a wiener and stuff. Your woman character, you could do all that. But there wasn't even a mirror in the game.
Yeah.
Like there was literally, and it was entirely first person. So you're like, I made this cool character, and literally nobody ever sees you.
That's really funny.
Which is just awesome. But I wanted to talk briefly, just for a couple minutes before we go to our ADF interview. Because I found myself doing this more and more when I like turn on a Netflix show, and it's like, what is the threshold for when you would just either stop playing a game or stop watching a show or a movie because you're like, you know what, I've had enough.
For me, it's when nudity shows up in games.
Well, but for woke stuff.
Oh, for me, it's when gay nudity shows up. In terms
Obama
of woke stuff, I think just if it's super in your face, because like I mean, I played the Spider-Man games on PlayStation. There's like pride flags in New York. I don't really care about that.
But sometimes that ends up bugging me a lot because it's like even this pronoun thing, you know, it's like, why is this here?
Yeah.
Like, why did you have to put this in? And I hate that it's like normalizing it.
Yeah.
Like the next game we'll have it again, and then the next game we'll have it again. You know, it's just like going to become a normal thing, and I hate that.
I think it is somewhat subjective. For me, there's a sort of grade of how heavy-handed it gets.
Yeah.
If it's one thing, you kind of roll your eyes and you're like, they're trying to go along with this stuff, you know. And then also, as far as shows and movies go for me, a big part of it is whether it feels like it's purely for the agenda's sake.
Yeah.
You know, like there's a movie like Everything Everywhere All at Once, where part of the storyline is that the character has a lesbian daughter, but it feels organic to the story. It's like I don't necessarily agree with that morally or politically,
I agree.
but it doesn't feel like it's shoehorned in there for some dumb reason. It feels like that's the story they wanted to tell. So I definitely don't like it when it feels like it's a story that doesn't need that and they're just pushing it in there. You know, or like I said, depending on how heavy-handed and pervasive it is.
Yeah, that's an interesting example because I saw Everything Everywhere All at Once in the theaters, and it did not feel forced. It felt organic. And then I went and watched Multiverse of Madness, the Doctor Strange 2 one. And the girl has the pride.
Oh, it's very forced.
Pin, like,
Yeah.
the camera's constantly like right on this pride. Like, why does she have this? It's random. And then it's like, oh, she's got two moms on this other planet.
Yeah.
And she grew up on another planet. And the pride flag happened to be designed exactly the same way in this other universe.
That's because she's from the progressive universe.
Right, exactly. So that bugged me.
The
It just
one
felt
that our
very
universe
forced.
aspires to be is her perfect progressive.
And I can't put my finger on why that feels very forced. And then I guess it's just better storytelling.
Well, I
don't know.
think part of it is like in Everything Everywhere All at Once. The story is kind of about that the mother having a difficult time accepting this about her daughter. That's kind of a crux of the story. Whereas in
But it also didn't feel like an LGBTQ film.
no,
Where it's like, oh, I'm not accepted, and that's the whole point.
Yeah.
You know, like,
well, yeah, but it is a source of tension between.
it's
the
like a
characters.
catalyst that leads to some of the stuff.
Yeah, and in Doctor Strange, it's just kind of like there, and it serves no purpose at all. There's no tension built around it. There's nothing. It's literally just, oh, by the way, I have two moms, guys. Look at my two moms. Guys, did you see my two moms over there? Because they're gay. That's kind of what it felt like.
Yeah. And one of the old classic movies, I think, like when I was growing up, I liked, was it As Good as It Gets with Jack Nicholson? And Greg Kinnear plays a gay guy who's like a victim of a hate crime, but it just feels like a good movie. You know, it's just part of the story. But then, you know, it's like when we have Gabe El-Taib here and he was talking about Superman. It's just, we're going to make Superman bisexual.
Yeah.
It's like, why? It's just to push an agenda. It's not, you're not coming up with a good original story.
Yeah.
It's not organic to the story. It's just shoehorned in for politics.
Right. And in terms of like the heavy-handedness of it and stuff, it's drawing that line. I don't think you can really just draw it. It's kind of like what people say about pornography. You know it when you see it. And it's kind of the same thing. You know it when they're doing that. It's like, oh, I get it. You're just trying to send a message.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool.
All right, well,
There's no tension in this conversation.
the issue has been solved.
Settled.
Now it is time to talk to Jeremy Tedesco about ESG, ADF, and VDS.
And now it's time for another interview on the Babylon Bee podcast.
I'm Jarrett Lemaster. With me today is Jeremy Tedesco with ADF, Alliance Defending Freedom, which we are massive fans of. You guys do such good work, and I'm a huge fan of you guys. So, Jeremy, this is great to have you on. Thanks for being here today.
Yeah, appreciate that. Huge fan of the Bee and very excited to be on.
Awesome. Okay, first question I have for you. Are you Italian or are you German?
I'll say both. Actually, my name in Italian, Tedesco, means German. So it's a little bit odd, but yeah, I'm Italian.
Yeah, that's what I was, that's what I was saying. Like, are you Italian or German? That's so funny. So his name means German in Italian.
That's
so
funny.
That's
Not
good.
many people know that, but
That's good.
Man, you're well informed.
Well, that was honestly, I can't take the credit for that. That was one of our guys here, one of our producers. He was like, wait, his name means German and Italian. So anyway, I had to bring it up. Yes. So you've come out against ESG. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. Isn't that the stuff they put in Chinese food, or did they microdose that and it kind of helps with depression? Like, what is ESG?
I guess maybe it's kind of where it started, but I guess it kind of like went into the kind of business shareholder space, and it's causing all these problems for corporations. So yeah, What is ESG? It's the term ESG means environmental, social, and governance. That doesn't really help you understand it. I mean, essentially what it is the progressive agenda kind of packaged for corporate America, and they pressure corporations to adopt ESG through a lot of different methods. Shareholder pressure, the left really controls, progressives really control a lot of the huge asset managers, and the proxy advisory services, which essentially advise investment advisors and wealth advisors how to vote shares. And so they have control over a lot of these kind of pressure points on corporations, regulators too. And they're demanding ESG adoption by corporations. And when they adopt that, what they're basically adopting is the political agenda of the left on environmental, social issues that most Americans care a lot about and don't want to see corporations taking positions on.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, in the last year, we've seen a lot of this in public. So we've seen some really big explosions from some of these places like Anheuser-Busch, for instance, taking on Dylan Mulvaney, losing $15.7 billion, and then continuing to kind of double down in spite of like massive losses. I don't understand it. So what is it? Why can't somebody just wake up and be like, guys, let's stop hemorrhaging money and let's just stop doing all this weird stuff? What's happening with that?
Yeah, so I think, the pressure is equaling out some. So first of all, let me answer your question kind of about why is Anheuser-Busch or Target doing these things? It didn't come out of the blue.
Target,
Yeah, I mean, it didn't come out of the blue. It's really been happening for years. It's been growing. And part of it is just the way that the progressive left works. What they do is they always move the goalposts on these corporations. So, they score them on different tools they use or indexes they use to determine whether you are doing what they want you to do on E, S, or G. And then each year you might get 100% on an index that scores you on the S, the social. But the next year they come back and they're like, hey, we added 3 things. And those 3 things are always, more radical than last year's. So perfect example of this is Human Rights Campaign and their Equality Index, which has been around for 20 years. And tons of the corporations in the Fortune 1000 take this survey. Most of them get very close to, or if not 100 on it. And HRC is kind of a radical LGBT activist organization, but they really have, control over a lot of these corporations and what they do on LGBT issues. Well, this coming year, to get 100% on HRC's Equality Index, these companies have to provide puberty blockers to minors in their health insurance programs. Well, that's like one of the most contentious issues in the country. And that particular part of that issue, puberty blockers for youth, is probably the most contentious issue of all. If you look at the polling on it, whether you're looking at Republicans, Democrats, or independents, people are diametrically opposed to that. Yet HRC wants to drive these corporations as deep as they can into that contentious issue. So, I mean, this is the way the kind of the sausage is made. They say you got to get a high ESG score. They have all these these kind of nonprofits and other organizations rate organizations, and then you kind of just drive a message at them that you got to do this to get 100, to get accolades.
So my big question about this is, though, so it's what is called the CEI. This is your CEI score, and it comes from all these like radical leftist groups. Why does it matter? Like who cares? Like who cares what they think?
I mean, in the end, it matters because of what I said at the beginning. The progressives really have control over key people who put pressure on corporations. So they have an incredibly powerful and active shareholder activism movement that files tons of shareholder resolutions and puts tons of pressure through shareholders. Then they have the big asset managers, BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard, who own somewhere between 10 and 30% of the shares of every one of the big companies. And so when it comes to voting time, you have these activist shareholders putting in ESG proposals and the big asset managers voting 30% of the shares. So the corporations just say, well, we're doing what the shareholders want. But the reality is this whole thing is kind of rigged. And that whole power structure that the left has needs to be unwound. And it is being. I mean, the thing I want to make sure you understand is things have changed a lot. There's a lot of counterweights now to the ESG demands. And I think what corporations were experiencing and what we all kind of experienced as we watched them engage over the last several decades is they keep getting more progressive. They keep adopting more left-wing stuff. And that's because it was really the only game in town. The only people showing up to have conversations with them was the left. Totally changed. Republican state treasurers are really pushing back on this. Republican attorneys general are really pushing back on this. We have formed a group of aligned shareholders that are pushing back on this, the shareholder space. And I do think the pendulum is swinging back. Now, where the corporations end up in all this, who knows? But they're hearing both sides of the conversation now, and they're understanding that their employees, their customers, their shareholders, regulators, sometimes states are coming to them and saying, you're going to pay a price if you go down this path. And so, I mean, in the end, these are businesses, and I think they're going to listen to those people.
Yeah, you got to hope so. And there's been advocates on the right to kind of create this separate economy. Obviously, like the Daily Wire talks about this a lot, where they want to create a whole separate economy, If you want to buy razors, buy Jeremy's razors, you know what I mean? Instead of going back into the system and maybe changing a little bit so that we can make the pendulum swing in the overall culture. And so would you obviously, I think you advocate for that model versus like, let's just be separate and create our own America. Or do you want to do both simultaneously? What do you think?
I think it's important to do both because I think that there's a lot of entrenched kind of censorship mentality and deplatforming, even debanking mentality that is going to be hard to root out immediately. So I think we do need to explore this idea of alternate economies. But in the end, I believe we need to reform the existing institutions, the existing economy. We have to be able to participate to the maximum ability that we can in the economy that everybody else does.
Yeah.
And we
without
need to have a seat at the
taking
table.
the mark of the beast.
Their mark, I guess, right?
I know, the mark of the CEI beast, which is probably very similar to the eventual mark of the beast. I'm just going to say it. Just say it right there. You also launched this really interesting thing, and it's kind of a counter to the CEI score, the rating, and it's the Alliance Defending Freedom's Viewpoint Diversity Score. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, the Viewpoint Diversity Score is where we have, that's a website. It's viewpointdiversityscore.org. We house a business index there. And basically what it is the first comprehensive measurement of corporate respect for free speech and religious freedom. So we measure these corporations based on 42 performance factors that we think if they score well on, they're going to have a tolerant culture, both internally and externally, when it comes to free speech and religious freedom, when it comes to respecting the diverse views of their customers, their employees, their shareholders, and others in the kind of broader public square. And so our real concern and what we focused on with the index in the first 2 years, we've done two iterations of it so far, are those corporations and those industries that have kind of gatekeeper function over essential business, over essential services and products. So that's tech and financial services. And so we're looking right now, like basically 75 Fortune 500 companies in the tech and financial service space. And as you would imagine, they score really low on our index because they are really kind of beholden to progressive ESG, DEI, all that stuff. And so they have a lot of practices that are really bad and they're getting low scores. Now, we're not trying to name and shame them. We're trying to show them that they have massive gaps if they want to be known as corporations that respect these things. And we have a whole host of model policies and practices, guidelines that they can adopt and kind of look at as they're trying to pull things back. And again, like what we were talking about before, there is a counterweight now. There's counter pressure. It's no longer a free pass to just do whatever progressives want you to do.
Right.
And so we're trying to tell them, look, this is a path where you respect every person, you respect all views, and you build up a culture of speech and religion, which are essential supports for a free society. You can do it in a way that doesn't favor any viewpoint over another. And so, we're hopeful that we can continue to kind of point out a different path to these businesses that give them an alternative. It's not an alternative ESG because we're not requiring or asking these companies to debank people we disagree with or deplatform people who say things we don't like or stop funding, nonprofits that we disagree with. That's not who we are. We're about a marketplace that's open to everybody and doesn't have, as part of its program, discrimination against people because of their political or religious views.
That's amazing. So have you guys thought about creating something like this for other areas of culture? Like, for instance, obviously universities would be a great place to start, like how friendly is this university to free speech? How maybe even like rate your professor on that level. Even churches, like I would say there are, it seems like there's churches that are like about CEI. So, seems like in Hollywood or the guilds or anything like that, you could probably apply this to all that stuff. And have you guys, obviously it seems like maybe you have, you're nodding your head.
Yeah, we've thought about it. We've talked about it. There's some of the ones you mentioned we've thought a lot about. We've also thought about a 50-state religious freedom index. And, these things take an enormous amount of work and research. But our concern right now and our focus is that if private companies start debanking people, and we know they're already deplatforming people, but if it even goes to debanking people because of their political and religious views, then we can have the strongest possible, which we really do, First Amendment rights to speech and religious exercise in relationship to government censorship and government discrimination. But when private companies who have control over the digital public square and our access to essential financial services like a bank account or payment processing, if they can just cancel us for our religious beliefs, then that's going to have the same or more chilling effect on people's willingness to engage in the marketplace of ideas as government censorship. So we really need to stop those things from happening first, I think, and that's kind of our core focus right now. And then I think at some point, I'd love to move to some of these other areas.
That's great. I mean, that's really great. I think we need this in our culture. We need to be able to do something about all of this pressure, this corporate pressure for all of us to conform to this progressive ideology. And so I love what you guys are doing there. ADF, you guys are the heroes right now. You're actually on the front lines. And so I always love talking to you because we're on the front lines in a certain way. We just basically, we're kind of in the courtyard. We're in the king's court. We're the jesters on the side and laughing at everybody. You guys are in there engaging and saying, we should change this, So I love it that you guys are doing it. So thank you so much for coming out. Thank you for being on the show. And those of you who are watching ADF, if you have any of these kinds of issues, please go to the ADF. If you are interested in this kind of stuff, go to the Alliance Defending Freedom. They're doing such amazing work in culture on the legal side, and they are the people really standing in the gap for us, because that stuff affects us every day when we go to the store, when we go to church, when we go anywhere. So they're doing some good work out there. Thank you so much, Jeremy. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
and,
really appreciate you having me on.
Thanks for coming on, Jeremy.
That was a great interview.
Awesome.
Good job, Jeremy Tedesco.
Check
I
out
like
the
the
link.
part where he talked about Tabasco sauce.
Check out the link to find out how you can support ADF and all the important legal work they're doing. Hey, we'll see you guys next time on the Babylon Bee Occasional.
Kapow pow.